Listen, the other thing, it's interesting, we haven't talked about this at all, but the other thing that I'm hearing is something that Democrats are saying behind the scenes and that nobody is saying publicly, is that they feel that President Biden's decisions to have his son Hunter, going on Air Force One with him to Ireland and going to a state dinner with him, major mistake. You can love your son and support your son in his recovery from a serious drug addiction, and it doesn't have to be in the public eye. And the first time your son calls you from a business dinner while he's on speakerphone with a bunch of guys who you don't know, you say, don't ever do that again. Or, the whole issue of, why is he working for Burisma? Why didn't somebody say years ago, this is not a good look? You don't have any expertise. You're clearly being offered the job because you're my son. You can't do that. There seems to be a blind spot, according to many Democrats, for the president when it comes to his son. And I think it's going to hurt him in the campaign.
It's a speaking truth to power.
It's hard.
Said than done. And one of the greatest White House aides of all time was John Kennedy's, Kenny Donnelly. And his ambition in life was to be the first person in the Oval Office every day to tell Jack Kennedy he was full of shit about something. And that typically is not the route to getting, is Kenny Donnelly. It's not the route to getting ahead in politics. And that's what that is. Let me ask you this about Hunter Biden. I talked about this in a talk I gave. Seems to me that what Hunter Biden, put aside, whether he should be on Air Force One or all of this, for certain, he's entitled to some grace in the society. Lot of politicians have kids. He's had a hard life by any objective measure. His life went off the rails completely. Whatever, for all of us, our lowest moments, right? I mean, all of his, right, are front and center. And I guess my question that I posed to a room full of Republicans, I said, what do you want to do with him? You want him to kill himself? Will that satisfy the bloodlust? Should we execute him? Right? What do you want him to start using hard drugs again? Would that satisfy him? And it's the complete absence of grace to me in the moment, stepping back, the absence of kindness, well wishes, that I can tell you 20 members of Congress like that, both parties with kids who have gone and are in recovery. Do we really as a country want to make this, right? That you run for office, your family is in the free fire zone for destruction. You've got an anorexic daughter. Your opponent's going to try to drive her to suicide. And so I think that this is an elemental story about American culture and about American life. And my fundamental criticism, the defect of American political coverage, is American political coverage posits that American culture flows out of American politics, as opposed to American politics flowing out of American culture. And when you cover it, that politics is at the headwaters, it has a profoundly warping and distorting effect. And I'm curious, how you think about it, because you will be remembered as a world-class journalist, someone talented who had a great career in all of it. But unlike most journalists, right, you will have played a role in some astounding number of people that you'll probably never know the number. You'll never know all the stories. But man, you helped a lot of people. And I wonder how you feel about that as a part of your story, your legacy, and in the context of a Hunter Biden, as you get up there and talk about it. Because I'm not talking about immunizing him from a serious gun charge. I'm not talking about excusing behavior. I'm not talking about kind of an absence of accountability. Accountability and responsibility. These things happen, when people have to make amends, from things they've done wrong. But I'm curious, like, on your kind of worldview on this stuff.
Well, first of all, thank you for your remarks about that. I still get messages on social media from people who write me and say that my book helped get them sober, or in many cases, you saved my life. And I once said to my kids, I think that's probably the one thing I'll be remembered for the most. There are lots of great journalists. So I feel very grateful that I was able to take a really difficult chapter in my life and help other people get through their difficult chapters in their lives. I do think that Hunter Biden's addiction has been certainly weaponized politically. Was there any reason for Marjorie Taylor Greene to hold up a picture of Hunter Biden from his laptop doing something, under the influence of drugs that was embarrassing and crude and had no business being in a congressional committee hearing? And I do wonder where those congressmen who have people in recovery in their lives are, and why they aren't speaking up a little bit more about the way we talk about people who have suffered from drug addiction. We know, as I said to you at the beginning of this podcast, that this is an issue that crosses political lines. We know that the opioid crisis began in the heart of Appalachia and in many red states where there were, under and unemployed people who had lost their jobs in coal mines and in factories, and had injuries and were prescribed a drug that would make them feel better and led them down a terrible path of addiction and eventually death. So this is not a blue or a red state issue. It's not a city or a rural issue. It is an every American issue. It is a uniquely American issue, the opioid crisis. And I think it is a terrible thing to ridicule somebody or denigrate somebody for what they did while in the grip of addiction. And I don't say that he should be excused for any crimes that he committed. He should not. Everybody should be equal under the law. By the way, it is very difficult to find somebody who would have been indicted for the kind of gun charge that he's been indicted for, who didn't also use that gun for a crime, in commission of a crime.
I'll be very direct about it. He is being treated unfairly by the law. When you look at a prominent person, and you look at a person in politics, particularly in this moment of time, you have to look, whether it's Alvin Bragg in New York or it's Hunter Biden, is there politics influencing this? And when the answer is an obvious yes, on the basis of, well, give me the list of other people who've been similarly charged, right? So the issue with Hunter Biden is, would the 25-year-old black kid be charged with it? If the answer is yes, by all means charge him. But if the only person in America who would be charged for this is the president's son, because the attorney general doesn't want criticism, well, that's an issue too.
Yeah,
and I think.
Just
plainly staring. I think that's plainly staring this story in the face.
Yeah, and so we're clear that when these gun charges, on its face, he violated the law. He lied. He said, "I'm not a drug user," and in fact, he later on revealed he was a drug user. So on its face, he did violate the law. The reality is, this particular crime is never charged unless you go on to use that gun in commission of a crime. In this
Correct.
case, Hunter Biden had this unloaded gun for 11 days until his sister-in-law took it away from him because she thought he was going to kill himself. The same thing is true of the taxes. He repaid all those taxes. I mean, I know people who got in trouble with the IRS and didn't pay all their taxes. And, the IRS hounded them and in some cases took their driver's license from them and, made all sorts of arrangements on a payment plan for them, but they didn't get charged with a crime. So I just think you have to be clear about all of that there. It's, anyway, I just think that, and it's funny, I asked Bobby Kennedy this in my town hall that I anchored because he is a person in long-term recovery. He was very addicted to heroin, or I think it was heroin or cocaine. He was addicted to drugs and has been in recovery for many, many years. And I wanted to know from him what he felt about seeing, somebody else's addiction weaponized in a way politically. And he didn't really answer the question, but he did talk very, in a very interesting way about how he thought we as a country should be approaching recovery, which was holistic and judgment free. I just think it feels like Hunter Biden is fair game and to a lot of people. And listen, I think there have been many, many, many mistakes in the way the Biden family has handled this, and Hunter Biden has handled this, and even President Biden has handled this, and in having his son be so public. I'm not in that family. I don't understand, the dynamics there, and I certainly don't understand what it's like to be the father of a child, to be the father who has lost 2 children and almost lost this son to a terrible drug addiction, and what that must be like. I can't fathom if one of my kids had gone through this. So
I don't think anyone can.
I don't think anybody can, and I just think it's a bipartisan issue, and I really do wish more people, to bring it now in a full circle, I really wish more people in Congress, as you say, and in life would be a little more graceful about that aspect of the story.
Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so you never miss a video. Also, for more content just like this, please consider joining our Warning Premium community. You can find out more in the description below.